What's going on, everybody? Brett here, and we're back playing some more Total War Warhammer 2. Going to be up against my good buddy Triari. We played a lot of good games today, kind of doing a lot of testing, and we may be bringing some unit testing to you guys who are interested in that sort of thing very, very soon. But at the moment, he wanted to test out a new Wood Elf build, and I was happy to oblige. Unfortunately for him, I memed it up a little bit. So I took Squigs. This is a squig-centric army, and we're going to see in a moment how that performs against the Wood Elves. So, yeah, guys, this is not a build that I planned on bringing, but inspiration struck, and I wanted to have some fun. So I have a cheap front line of goblins, standard spear-wielding goblins to take hits from cavalry to muck up large targets. And here we have some standard night goblins. These guys have poison, silver shields. They were kind of the result of a bit of leftover funds. I brought 2 units of black orcs to give me a bit of punching power. I didn't want to full on, meme out my buddy. And a single goblin rock lobber to kind of try and keep wood elves honest. They sometimes like to sit back and shoot you from a distance, but when you have a rock lobber, you can kind of force them to come to you. Even one, I find, generally is enough to do that. Also mixed in with the front line, I have the standard squig herd. So these guys are super cheap, only 500 gold. Their stats, not super impressive, but when it comes to eating up infantry, that's what they do. So whenever they're fighting, these guys are happy, and they're immune to psychology, so they're not scared of being, up and close with Durthu. But they're excellent at taking down Dryads especially. Not so much Eternal Guards, because Eternal Guards with spears do have anti-large bonuses, and Squigs, despite being small and friendly looking, are actually large units. I do have also out on the wings as a means of kind of countering any sort of like cavalry play. I have one group of orc boys, the standard ones. They're better versus infantry, but since the Wood Elf cavalry is so lightly armored, they are actually a pretty decent counter. And since they do have bronze shields, they're also decent against the Glade Riders with Hagbane tips. And just to help me catch these super fast units, you see here the Wild Riders are 85 speed, but the Goblin Big Boss on a Wolf is 92. So he'll be able to lock them down just enough, hopefully, for my slower Orc boys to get in there. And I've got 2 identical groups doing the same thing. And you'll see here probably the most important part of this build is that I have 2 deeply vanguarded groups of Night Goblin Squig Hoppers in each corner. And these, once again, they're more meant versus infantry, but if you can get them on the light cavalry of the Wood Elves, they'll do a lot of work. Once they apply that poison, they'll be much faster than the Wild Riders, which is kind of insane to think about. It was hard for me to remember how fast they were until I got into this battle, and I realized these guys were actually 82 speed, which is just insane. And I'm going to be bringing them in as quickly as possible because the battle is going to get underway here quite quickly. Goblobber, just not really that important which targets we shoot at. I did want to try and mitigate some of the effectiveness of the Glade Riders, but my opponent's Hawk Riders here, with no ranged units of my own, they are going to go completely uncontested, and they're going to be able to get in here and shut down my Goblin Rocklobber. Now, I was a little worried at this point, because I had taken Azhag the Slaughterer on his Wyvern, and he is super fast, 110 movement speed, but that is the exact same speed as the Hawk Riders, who have incredible armor-piercing damage in melee. And if they were able to surround me, I realized I would be in a lot of trouble. So I decided to book it the heck out of there. I have him stripped down. He only has the Wa, and you'll see me pop that in a moment when we engage to increase my speed, my charge bonus, and my melee attack. Took Spirit Leech. That's all I felt like I needed. Spam that out. Perhaps on Durthu, Branch Wraith, or even the Hawk Riders are not a bad target for that. And he also has his Encourage aura and Get On With It. So plus 8 leadership and an AoE around him. He causes terror, which is not bad. Let me know in the comments, guys. I was pretty sure at some point Azhag had an item that gave him regen, but I just can't remember when that was either changed or if I'm actually just losing my mind. But my Squigs, I just decided, with the Wa, with their ridiculous melee attack that they now have, that they would be able to fight just about anything. My Goblins are going to get in here versus the Dryads, who are quite adept at dealing with Goblins. They do magic damage, which is not super relevant, but they have physical resistance, which helps them stand and fight. These war dancers as well will chew up goblins, and Durthu himself is a mighty beast in melee. My Vanguard deployment is still, not quite paying off as of yet, and I'm trying not to, pile in too many units in any one flank. But the way I like to use squig herds, I like to charge them in from behind these cheap goblins. So add these two units together, that's 800 gold, and together they make a pretty fierce little combo. And of course the black orcs are going to get in here. Let's full speed this as the goblins go flying versus the dryads. And they're going to get in here and start chopping them up. And the cool thing about the squig herds is when they rampage, they'll still be in combat and they'll still be doing great damage versus these units. Knowing that my orc war boys aren't going to be able to catch a lot of these, very mobile wood elf forces, I'm just using them in the front lines. A nice pendulum there going off on the back of my black orcs. But I'm detaching a lot of my units to help swarm and try and, fight off these wild riders. Of course, my rock lobber has been destroyed, but now these hawk riders have to try and find a home. And I'm pretty cognizant of how dangerous they are to Azhag, and I'm going to do my best this battle to try and keep him in an area where he can easily be supported. And they're going to get a nice rear charge here into this group of black orcs. But I have easily overwhelmed this flank. That leaves Durthu by himself with the Sword of Date and Flock of Doom. He is one of the most dangerous lords in the game in a pit fight. If you surround him and he hits you with a Sword of Date, Flock of Doom combo, especially if it's upgraded, you'll see here the damage he's doing with that one spell. It's a very, very cheap spell. Using the Orc War Boys to counter the War Dancers I thought was a pretty smart play on my part. The War Dancers want to be fighting, lower tier infantry units. They're absolute blenders when they can do that. But the Orc War Boys want to be fighting infantry, so they get a bonus, and it negates the War Dancers bonus. So I like that quite a bit. Azhag's going to be focusing down the Branch Rate, who has been doing some of the casting here, some of that shadow magic. He also is responsible for the healing that can be done, and if I'm able to rout him off the battlefield, that is certainly something I want to do. And I'm using some of my faster units to try and chase off and keep off the battlefield all of the mobile elements of the Wood Elf army. So this, as you can tell, is kind of a fast one, guys. And I'm piling it on Durthu, but in retrospect, I would probably pull one or two of these units off. Maybe this, non-rampaging squig herd, because all I'm really doing is giving Durthu great targets for his AoEs. Orc War Boys. At this point, I've realized, man, I'm kind of alone on the battlefield. There aren't that many units, so I need to get close to Azhag. I'm keeping him, in a fight, but surrounded by allies. I don't really want him to be in the air, because at this point I was also suspecting a bit of a pincer attack on him. And if that happens, I would have to dive down quickly to get him out of the air. And supported with even some goblin spears would really help. But if he's only attacking me with one unit, I think Azhag can turn and fight, a damaged unit of Hawk Riders if he needs to. Goblin Big Bosses have been in the background this whole time, just doing tons and tons of work. Being able to catch all of these Ponzi elves on their horses and stags was nice. And getting a second Wa here kind of just solidifies my win. More melee attack for all my units. My Black Orcs here, I've kind of, like I said, I've decided to pull some of them out. Sword of Daith going off. It deals a lot of damage to low tier units. You'll see it's kind of popping. It also applies minus 30 armor. But once, the entire army goes, as strong as Durthu is, he is not going to be able to fight the rest of this mighty Wa. So I think that's it for the battle here. It lags on 420. I don't know if that's appropriate or not. Anyway, hopefully that didn't aggravate you guys. I'm not sure why I did that. This is a new replay, so it's not on the pre-Festag patch, which can mess up some of my older replays, but I thankfully don't have too many of those. Thanks to my buddy Triari for playing such a fun game with me. I can't even tell you how much joy it brought me to see the Goblin Squigs and just the standard squig herds get used in a battle. I feel like they don't get enough love, and even standard goblins had an excellent place in this battle. And you see, I didn't really take that much damage on anything. We were able to so quickly overwhelm the Wood Elf forces that, you know, we were able to mitigate a lot of what they were trying to do. And we, like I said, we ended up playing a lot of games today, and we ended up playing a lot of Wood Elf games, trying out lots of different builds. And I tried one out against him while he was playing the Dwarves. He tried one out against me while I was playing the Dwarves. And we were trying to find ways to break up the more difficult matchups. And, you know, that's how you got to experiment, guys. So don't take this as a measure of Triari's skill. I mean, this is a super difficult build to play against. And I remember a time in the meta where squigs were super, super overpowered. And you could just take an entire, you know, army of squigs and run them in and, you know, beat basically any dwarf opponent, that's for sure, because their anti-infantry bonuses were so huge. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this this squiggly build, and I will see you in the next one. Once again, my name is Brett, and my channel is Good Talk Gaming. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate every single subscription that I get, and like the video if you did enjoy it. Alright, guys, that's enough, and I will catch you later.